Hello everyone, and welcome back to the campaign diary for my Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign, Aracséa edition. Today the party meet with a nervous dwarf, travel to Targos, and stick their noses where they simply don't belong. For those following along with the calendar, by the end of this session, 2 in-game days have passed, bringing us to the 6th of Caerldin. And before I start on the recap, I just want to make you all aware, Mutiny's player had to skip out on this session, so I had to take the reins for the most part. Thankfully, no combat or anything of massive import happened with her, so fingers crossed she can jump right back in on the next session. So, we left off with the party having returned from killing the Verbeek at its lair and retrieving their said reward, a bottle of Wyvern's Mead Reserve circa 1257. And Stronus being secretly left a note by the barrel maker, Olivessa, to meet her at the old shrine and not to trust this burly dwarf, Merrin Throff, that was about to approach them. That encounter went as brief as expected. See the last few minutes of the last campaign diary for more info on that. And the party pretty much went straight back to Withens Reach Hall to recoup and wait for the sun to set. After that time, and I think Stronus copied a detect thought spell into his spellbook, they set out to the shrine and met with Olivessa in which ended up being a long and anxiety-driven conversation. Took place. Olivessa was a very nervous kind of person, stuttered a little bit and just played around with her braided hair. She told the party of her suspicions that Merrin may have in fact had a hand in killing of her adopted father, who's the last town speaker, and urged the party to follow him to prove her suspicions. She also told them that she witnessed an event, namely Merrin meeting with a figure in secret, this figure wearing dark leathers and wearing a white theatrical mask, like a kind of Phantom of the Opera kind of thing. She also said that she reckons that if the party went and looked at the body of the speaker, they would be able to find evidence of like arrow marks, like pre-mortem and things like that. But none of them took up on that part of the offer. They pretty much recognised that perhaps this Olivessa was just wanting revenge, or perhaps just wanted someone to blame for her father's death, and agreed to just track Merrin down in order to get to the truth. Merrin, as I may have said last time, is the dwarf who wants to take over Goodmead and claim it as like an outpost for his master Nerth, who is the current corrupted speaker of Targos and runs like his little white mask operation, which we'll get to at some point later, so just keep that in mind for now. They also briefly discussed like the election process for finding a new speaker, and she suggests that one of the party should run as a candidate, explaining that most of the village would back her as a next speaker, but she doesn't really feel up to the task, and she would happily throw her weight to enroll any of the party who had probably gained a lot of credit with the village, having helped them basically revitalise their entire way of life by getting the mead back. She explains the election is in 6 days, on the 10th of Caerldin, and that if they are to discover anything, they should be back before then in order to hopes to expose Merrin's deeds. With that in mind, the party sleep at the mead hall once more, and they head out immediately to Targos the next day, which is about an 8-hour journey. They do have a random encounter on the way. I asked them to roll a 6-sided dice, so they rolled 1, which means an encounter triggers, and then we just rolled randomly. They encountered 3 woolly rhinoceroses, which they decided to adeptly avoid, which they did do quite well. Raina didn't want to upset the rhinoceros spirits. They've managed to get to Bryn Shander without any issue, where they buy some food to continue on their journey. Then they travel the next 2 hours to Targos. And when they arrive there, they find it is like Bryn Shander, a massive walled city. It's not long log palisades like Bryn Shander, but it's a more of a wall of sturdy stone bricks. At the gate, instead of town guards, which they're accustomed to seeing alongside the banner, and the banner for Targos is like a black sailboat with an unfolded sail on a blue background, instead of seeing town guards with that regalia, they see some like thuggish looking types in like dark leathers, in greys, browns, etc., etc. they kind of like chuckle as they walk past. They walk into the city and find amongst the normal commoners there as well. They also find tons more of these like thug kind of types milling, kind of just hanging around, milling about. And some of them they notice seem to be wearing like these white gloves, which they just kind of coin in as being particularly odd. Having not been here before, they decide to talk to one of these guards to try and ascertain like places to go for a drink and that sort of thing. And the guard they speak to is kind of very standoffish and kind of like laughs at the questions of like, oh, where's the speaker? Where's the town sheriff? And he just laughs in their face. The players immediately get the idea this is a kind of Riften from Skyrim kind of scenario, and they're not entirely wrong, to be honest. They do manage to find the location of two inns. There's the Three Flags Sailing, which is which the guard explains is run by Ma, whoever this Ma character is, and there's the Phantom Diver. So they decide to go to this Three Flags sailing place, and upon entering they see it's a relatively dismal kind of place. There's a few fishermen in here. I described to them that it kind of smells like brine, even though the lake they're on, Lake Mordon or something like that, is a freshwater lake. For some reason these fishermen stink as seawater, and they all seem to be a bit down on their luck. They're all a bit grumpy, apart from the proprietor, this Ma, her real first name Ethel. She's kind of like a Mrs. Doubtfire kind of character, sort of plumpish old woman with greying hair, and she's just like dotes on everyone. She's always running around and going, "Oh, you okay, dear? You've got everything you want. Oh, okay." And she goes like for everyone, here, then, yeah, here, there, the other. They see the party. She offers them to sit down, and they have a little conversation with her. She brings up some food. They're trying to get some more information about what's going on, but she just seems very. They kind of do some insight checks as well. She just seems very like she's trying her best to keep everyone in spirits up, saying like, "Oh, there's rumors of like a lake monster who's killing the fishermen. The lakes are frozen over, so they can't get as much fish." At one point, they make her cry because. They basically accuse her of like lying, saying there's something going on in the city, and she goes, "I'm just trying to do my best. Oh, you're gonna be the lie." And then they kind of give in to that, and she's about like kind of start getting her trust, and she's about to tell them something like how she does seem to think there might be something off about their new speaker, and she kind of before she can really say anything, four of the thugs come in, and then her demeanor completely changes, and they walk in. They kind of take spaces in the room, and two of them sit at the bar, and she kind of just stands there and like quietly nods and just basically entertains them, kind of just keeps them busy. And then the party kind of little discussing bit, going, "Oh, okay, she seems to have changed a bit there." She brought out to them some fresh bread. She said, "Oh, everything's on the house," and then she kind of patted on Rainer's shoulder and went, "Oh, this is fresh bread. It needs to be eaten straight away," kind of like hinting that she needs to eat it. We'll get to that in a second. She heads back, and they all creep outside. They open up this bread, and inside is a little note, and it just says more or less, something is wrong, nothing is as it seems, I'm okay, kind of thing. And that kind of eggs them on to perhaps try to find something else. They find someone else, just a random commoner, and they ask about Trig. This other missing persons, because I know Targos is one of the places of this missing persons case, the overarching story, and they are pointed towards Triglio's old place. Many people that we've spoken to already, the Ma and the guards, have said that Trig simply just wandered off, or they didn't really know much about what happened to him. And everyone they speak to kind of gives conflicting answers, and like, where's the speaker and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, they go to Triglio's, and inside they meet Jestin, who is just a human there who's just given this job, and he explains, "Oh, I was just offered an opportunity. I'm a trader from all over the place. I normally trade goods from Mount Minrock and from East Haven, Brenchander and the likes, but they offered me a place here, and I decided to set up shop." He explains that he's in the process of moving the old owner's stuff out, because there's a lot of junk that he couldn't quite understand. After some persuasion rolls and a bit of bribery, he agrees to let them upstairs to have a look at presumably Trigg's old stuff. And Stronus finds like a massive artificing workstation upstairs, and it's been well used, but it's in like good condition, well kept. There's like boxes full of old artificing things, bits of gear that he would have been using, and he also rolls well enough to find a leather wallet, and inside, written in Gnomish, has here like a little ID badge. It says Trig Putikin, and underneath that it's got some Gnomish writing, and with a big stamp on it that says Exile. You could just make out a little symbol which is like 3 cogs with some stars. That is the symbol of Girgadon, which is the gnome city far to the south, and the fact that it's got Exile on it means that he was kicked out of the Grand Guild of the Consulate, presumably for what his work is or something like that. On the back of the wallet, he notices there's some scratch marks. It looks like it's been done in with a knife. There's another symbol. It's a single cog with like 2 cross swords and cross blades slashes on the bottom, and that is the symbol of the Enclave. And they're seen as like the terrorists by the Grand Guild of the Consulate, but in other ways they're also kind of seen as like by themselves. They're kind of seen as like the ones who are not hindered by like the consulate's ways of by their laws, so they're free to research what they want and all that kind of stuff. In my other campaign, the Enclave are up in the Armin campaign. The Enclave are up to some weird stuff. They're trading firearms with a country to the south called Vrosnia, which is where the first campaign is set. And yeah, they've got access to airships. They've got some high-tech military armor uniforms. So there's some stuff going on with the Enclave that obviously these players won't be aware of, apart from one of them because he's in the other campaign. But yeah, it's just another theme to bring up, to nudge some thoughts into world building and stuff from related to the old past campaign. Anyway, he doesn't recognise the symbol, Stronus. He did have a chance to, because he is a learned man, so he may know of like distant cities and things like that, especially things like Girgadon. But he takes that, goes outside, shows it to the others, and again, none of them seem to realise what it is, or don't really know what it is. So they decide to head off to the Phantom Diver, the other inn, to try and get some more information. This time they were their eyes on trying to find Merrin to see if he had come in recently, and I described to them when they arrived at the Phantom Diver that they can hear it's a lively place inside, much livelier than anywhere else in town. And outside of the tavern, instead of the Targos banner, there is a different banner. It's like a black a moon, like eclipsing a white sun, and then inside of this black moon there is like a hand with a white mask, and that's the banner that's outside. And immediately they're like, oh, okay, the white mask stuff. They go inside, and I play some like pirate tavern music, and there's a bunch of fishermen in here. It's all very quite rowdy. There's normal people, commoners in here having drinks and things. There are a lot of these white gloved bandits everywhere. There's always at least 20 people in there, I say, at any one time. And there's this kind of grumpy, dishevelled, like bored looking tavern owner who runs the bar. His name is Owen, and he's always within like arm's reach of at least a few of these bandits. And the party quickly get the impression that he's like constantly walking on eggshells, being careful what to say. They go up, they order some drinks, they ask about various things, in which case like what's the deal with Trig, and some of the thugs don't let Owen answer. They kind of just snigger and say, oh, he was ran off, it's a shame because he was useful, or all that kind of stuff, being very vague and hostile at the same time. Raina even offers to like buy them drinks at some point because there's like a lot of hostility, and they also like ask about the speaker, but they get laughed at, and they kind of just sit down and keep a low profile, not willing to make a target too much of themselves, and they wait to see if they can see Merrin, and they notice. For one thing, Merrin doesn't show up during the day at all. They wait until nighttime. They get some rooms. Merrin doesn't show up. They see people come and go. They see some guards come. Some of the thug people come and go into the back room, but then they never leave, and they kind of question that. Stronus does finally come to the conclusion. You know, it's like, I've suspected this for a while, but this may be a base of operation for this white mask group kind of thing. And before long, they just decide to retire for the night, and they go to each of their respective rooms. And then I describe the next scene, in which case the music turns off, I put on some like dark, creepy ambience, and then I explain to them the following: that in the night they get like a great cold sensation come over them. It's not like, I'd say it's like not a bitter and harsh cold, but it's like a tingling sensation, and they quickly realize that they've become under some sort of spell or a poison. They feel they get moved, that they can't move themselves, but they feel like they're being moved. Some time passes, and soon enough, their eyes open slowly, and then they're in like a well-lit, extravagant room, and they feel like they're rocking ever so gently, and one of them guesses that they're on a boat, and of course they're right, they're on some sort of boat. And before them is a completely black-skinned tiefling wearing full plate armor, leaning back in a chair, eating an apple, his legs stretched out and across a desk in front of him, and all the three of them are bound to chairs, and he basically says to them like, I apologise for the drastic measures, but I just wanted to be sure of a conversation. And he's kind of like this Delvin Mallory kind of guy. He says a lot, he'll be willing to untie them. He says that his name is Bane. He acts as the speaker's right-hand man in Targos, and he's speaking to him on the speaker's behalf, and that he's willing. They've got a proposition for this group if they're willing to listen. And then I stopped the session right there because we were all getting very hungry and we needed some dinner. It was a late start this session, so it was a bit shorter than normal. And that's more or less what happened. It's just a cliffhangery little session to ramp us up for the next one. Quite a good session to get playing again, really. A short one this time. I don't think I'm going to go into too much of any extra stuff. We'll wait for the next session where we can ramp up some of these things. Well, the main thing I will say is if Mutiny's player had been here today, her backstory would start coming out now, and that is she's beginning to get headaches from these dreams she keeps getting, which I believe I explained in a past video. But these is linked to something else of her tale, something else which I'll also leave for a later episode, and it's something to do with her soul. Let's just leave it at that. It's like a little hint, something that she's kind of running away from and has had a problem with before, but now is slowly re-emerging itself now she's travelled away. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Sorry it's been a bit of a short one, and sorry it's been so long to get this done. I've had some laptop trouble, we've had trouble with scheduling. It has been a nightmare to say the least. If you're a fan of the music stuff, I'm working on getting the music going. I'm having some trouble finding the files before. I think I might have to do stuff from scratch again. It's a bit of a nightmare, but thank you guys for listening. Thank you for the support. This was episode 6 or session 6 of the Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign, Trouble in Targos, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you very much.